All right, everyone. So we are back from our break and just want to kind of go through another quick recap of everything we've done so far. And I want to ask a couple questions. So again, we created our form. Can anyone tell me what the purpose of that form is?
It's where you're going to put the fields that you're going to configure for search.
Correct. So our forms are our tables where we're collecting our data, or collecting and storing our data. So we've created our form. We created our first data source. Again, we've shown you the two different types of data sources, those static ones that are going to more or less remain the same, and then those form data sources, which is the one we had you create in your hands-on activity, which is going to tie those two forms together. Okay, so take, for example, you've got 100 different data fields that you need to collect data on for your one single form. If you put all 100 of those fields on this one form, your users are going to be scrolling for miles trying to see all of that information. Whereas if you break it up into tabs applicable by each grouping of fields, then it allows them to see. So you can see, I can see all of my information on this one screen without having to scroll down. And so, yeah, it's just a grouping of your fields in order to use less real estate on your page, if you will. Make it more user-friendly. Okay, so we are going to move on to our next section, which is creating our fields. Michael, we'll let you take over this section. This one's going to be a little bit longer because we're going to go through all the different field controls, what they do, the purpose of, and give you some examples of what you may use those fields for.
This section begins on page 31 of the training manual. This is the create a field page that you had previously seen me go through. I'm just going to walk through each of these controls again for creating a field and what they're used for. So I'm going to actually switch over to the training guide. So we've all seen the name, active, tags, description, scope. The is required field ensures that the user completes that field or puts data into that field for saving a record. A unique field would be something like a primary key for people that are working in databases. A social security number is another use for a unique field. And then we get into control types and field types. And I wanted to specifically come to the manual for this. So you saw when I set the control type to text, these were the available field types. So I just wanted to show the definition and an example use of what they would each be used for. Specifically, the text title is a non-user input field. It's more of a header, such as the mailing address versus shipping address that Danny showed you in the addresses tab. A text block is another non-user input field. It's something that you could use to give instructions to the user. And then the rest are actually user input fields. We've got rows and columns. As I mentioned, more than one field can't be in the same position in the same row or column. And that is specific to the tab that you were putting that field on. Data display name, that is the name you would see in a database or in the definitions file and the header file when importing data. A print bookmark, that is used to create a Microsoft Word template and map that field to a print template. Integration code allows you to map this field to an external system. And then rule source. So when it's set to default, these are the built-in data validation rules. So these are the default business rules that are built in to the app builder. Additionally, you can create custom business rules, which is covered in the assembler certification. They use regular expressions. And for this example, this is the custom rule, how you would set it up to validate a US phone number. Brings us to our next HOA.
Is there a summary listing of all those settings in the training material?
There is. Starts on page 31.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and as Michael mentioned, the custom rules is part of our assembler training. Also, the creating those print templates is also another section that's covered in that assembler training. So those aren't things that we'll be covering today, but we just kind of wanted to let you know what those fields represent. Okay, so for this hands-on activity, we are asking for a little bit more information. We would like at least 5 fields. The one that I do want to point out is to, and I've got it noted here, to go ahead and use that data source that you created as one of your fields for your product ID. The other fields, we just want to make sure that you're incorporating all of the different control types. You want to do at least one text, one list, one Boolean, one auto-generated, and one file. And you can name them whatever you like.
Sorry, and just to navigate there, you want to select the form that you are putting the field on. So sales, scroll down, select the fields tab, and then add field. And do not worry about publishing, we're just saving.
We'll check back in 10 minutes, see where we're at. If anybody needs some additional time, we can give you a few more minutes. Again, if you have any questions, you run into any issues, don't hesitate to let us know. Okay, so we've still got a couple minutes. I just wanted to check in, see how everybody's doing, if anybody's running into any issues. If y'all just want to go ahead and hit the raise hand button when you're done, that way we just know when everybody's done and we can go ahead and see what you've all created. All right, so it looks like we've got a couple people wrapping up. While everybody else is finishing up theirs, I'm going to pick on you, Robbie, since you were the first one done. Would you like to share your screen with us?
Sure. Can you see it?
I can.
Okay.
Perfect.
There's my boo field. You said name them all appropriately, so I figured you were talking about name them as you. So I tried to make sure that when I went through these, I did following the advice of not overlapping. I did field 1. Was it row 1, column 1, row 2, column 2? That's probably not enough space for everything, and maybe it is. I guess it depends on how the form is, but want to make sure those didn't overlap, but I probably didn't leave quite enough space. So.
Yep, and that's the other thing. As Chet mentioned, everything can be tweaked, and it's a matter of. I mean, it's so quick. As soon as you can go in, move a field from one row to a different row, hit publish, and as soon as you refresh the ReAccess application, it's changed immediately. So
right.
It's one of my favorite things to do when we're showing clients applications. Well, they'll say, "Oh, well, I actually would prefer this to be over here," and I'll go behind the scenes and change it real quick, and ta-da! Okay, so our next section is going to be configuring our search screens. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to go back into our app builder because we are still in our app builder. And I'm going to go to my inventory form. You all, when we get to the hands-on activity, you'll actually be doing this on your sales form. Obviously, I don't have that one on this basic application. So I'm going to go to my inventory form. And at the bottom of the page here, I have a configure search button. For starters, this is a must before you can publish. You've got to have at least one searchable field and one result. Now, be those the same fields? We'll get into that in just a second, but the application will not let you publish if your search page is going to be blank. Starting with the search layout. When you get to this page, it's going to have this black bar here that says drag field here. So I want to be able to search by my product ID. Actually, we're going to insert a column to the right, and we're going to do that. Let's do a row below. And so this is exactly how it's going to appear in ReAccess once we publish this. So I want to search by my product ID. I might want to search by my warehouse location, and I might want to search by quantity. Again, you can put, if you wanted to put all of these fields here, now obviously you can see some of these are our audit fields, are created by, created date. Those are not necessarily relevant to this particular application, but there may be an application where you want to search by who created that item or when they created it. For this one, we're just going to stick with these 3. But again, as we've mentioned before you move on, make sure you hit save or it will not save your changes. And there's also a preview mode that's going to show you how that's going to look. So it's going to show you that this here is a drop-down list, this one's a drop-down list, and then this is a text field that we can enter search data into. So we're going to save those changes and move to our results layout. Now the results layout is always going to be in a single row. However, you can add as many columns as you'd like. So I'm going to add 4. They do not have to be in the order that you set up your search layout. They also don't have to be the same. And so actually, I'm going to get rid of this one. And I'm going to do, I want to see the warehouse location in my results. I want to see the product ID. But instead of the quantity, I want to see the item description in my results. And as soon as I get through this part in the app builder, I will go into ReAccess to show you how those all look in from the ReAccess side. So we're going to save these changes. And then another option that may be helpful in some instances is you can set up default search values. So for example, for this particular application, let's say that my company is based out of France. And so I want to default my search to initially show me the items located in France. So you'll select this execute search on load, which means as soon as I go to that form, those search results are going to automatically populate. I don't have to put any search criteria in. I don't have to hit the search button. Those will populate immediately. This would also be good if you have, say, an active toggle on a field. So, for example, our Franklin County for our contractors, some of them are active and some of them are inactive. And if I wanted to make sure that every time I go to that contractor form, only my active contractors populate as soon as I click on the form, then you would set that in this as a default search value. But we're gonna, for the purpose of this one, if you needed to set up the default, that's how you would set that up. So I've saved all those changes and I'm gonna go here and publish my app, which you all will not do this step just yet, but this is where I wanted to open up ReAccess and show you those changes that were made. This was the original search that I had set up. So I had item name, product ID, warehouse location. But if I refresh my application by hitting the home button and I go to inventory, now you can see it's changed. Now I have my product ID, my warehouse location, and my quantity. And I can search on those. I don't have any records in here, so it's not going to return anything. But if I did, actually, I think I might have at least one, unless I've reset it. Give me 1 second. I do. Okay. So I have a USA record. And so you can see that in my results now, I've got warehouse location, product ID, and item description. Those are blank because I had not filled any of those out. But it's literally showing you the results based on however you set those up in your configure search pages. And so from there, we will move on to the next hands-on activity. Michael, if you will put that screen up for me, please. Okay. So following the steps, again, don't worry about publishing at the end, although technically at this point we can. Now that we do have our fields and our search values in place, we can go ahead and publish. Actually, you know what? We are going to publish. I take that back because this is our last step in the app builder, because from here we're going to move into the ReAccess application. So when you get done setting your search results and or search layout and your results layout, again, don't worry about the default search values because there's probably not really anything that we want to default the search values to at this point, but go ahead and hit save. Once you see that save bar in the top right-hand corner has saved successfully, then you'll go ahead and hit the publish button, which is in the upper left-hand corner of the app builder. And we'll give you about 5 minutes or so to complete this activity. And again, let me know if you have any questions. Okay, and just real quick while everybody's wrapping that up, I just kind of, again, want to recap what we've done. So since our break, we have created our fields. We should have each created 5 fields. And then in addition to our fields, we have now configured our search screen and giving the fields that we're going to allow our users to search on, as well as what those search results will look like when they're displayed in the ReAccess application.
I had an interesting error when I pushed publish. I get feedback that the row and column must be between 1 and 90, 1 and some large value. I had used the default values of 0, thinking it was a 0-based index. So I need to go back and correct those to 1 or larger.
Yes.
I did the same. You'll also get a warning message if you have the controls at the same place. I seem to have only published my search page. I'm not seeing my tabs.
Okay, do you want to share your screen with me real quick?
Sure.
All right, so scroll to the bottom.
So if I go in here and if I go looking for this, all I see is my search screen. I don't see the tabs.
Okay, hit the new button for me. Oh, go back. So the tabs don't show.
Okay, all right, never mind.
It's looking good.
All right.
All right. We will move on to our next section. So from here, if everybody has been able to publish successfully, so if you get any errors, you've corrected those errors, you've published successfully, if you go back to ReAccess and hit the home button, if it's already on the home page, you'll want to navigate to the inventory form and then back to home. So it'll just refresh the application and pull in any of those changes that you've made. Once you've pulled in your changes, you'll go to your sales form, or you can do the inventory form, either one in this for the next couple of exercises. And Michael will take us through adding an individual record from the ReAccess application.